good morning. I'm definitely the American, so I'll be running around back and forth. But I think one thing that Sanjay said is very important. Really treat this forum as a community. It's very key for you to be able to interact with people. Yesterday, a group of us from Hexagon, Google, Microsoft, national mapping agencies around the world got together and had basically a brainstorming session. And Sanjay always does this 2 or 3 times a year. And yes, even though we're competitors, we still like each other. And although we beat each other up at the parking lot, we're actually quite friendly in a room like that. But one thing we debated as a group that's quite interesting is geospatial today industry? Is geospatial today a profession? Is geospatial a capability? And really, you can look at geospatial. We're losing the. We need it to get up on top. Oh, there we go. You can look at geospatial probably as all three. It can be an industry. Many of us in this room provide professional services to various industries. Sanjay brought it up yesterday as it's really something that enables other industries. It's definitely a profession. Many of us today would call geospatial today as a profession. And then us as vendors really provide technology. So really it's all three. But I think what we all agreed in that room yesterday, it's a very exciting time. And it's a real significant change in that geospatial really has become the center of all of our lives. And many things have driven us and changed us to make geospatial a center of our lives. Okay? Geospatial has been around a long time. Okay? For those who are familiar with the old 10 Deutschmark, on the back of the 10 Deutschmark, Gauss did one of the very first surveys on the back of it. It has a picture of Gauss and it has the survey. So geospatial, surveying, photogrammetry have been for a long time. However, now it's becoming part of our everyday life. Charlie Trimble was the founder of Trimble Navigation. He set forth a vision that said GPS should become the next utility. And that utility be like communications or electricity or oil and gas or heating. I think we went beyond that, actually. I think geospatial information or positioning or geospatial awareness has really become that next utility. Okay? It's went beyond. GPS to me is a capability, it's a technology, but all of us use geospatial in our life. And it's been driven by technology changes, it's been driven by different economic conditions, it's been driven by different applications. If you look at Geospatial World, I think 2 issues ago, and you read in that, it talks about a heart attack application. And how a heart attack application looks at merging healthcare, right? Who of us would have ever thought we would have used geospatial in the healthcare area? Using healthcare as the actual market and then using geospatial information to be able to identify where somebody should go based on certain health characteristics. So this industry has changed. And we as professionals must change as well. It's a significant change for us. I keep losing the switcher here, but the next phase, I think, from a technology perspective that we need to look at is what are the different things that have changed us as an industry. One is sensor integration. So our sensors have changed where they used to be just GPS, or they just used to be photogrammetry based, or they used to just be an optical total station. Today what you're seeing is the sensors are starting to integrate to give us a ubiquitous position. Okay. To give us a ubiquitous position or location really anywhere in the world or in any type of environment. That's been a significant change for us because a location can't just be dependent on certain environmental conditions. So sensor integration has been a significant change. Processing. Okay, look at how processing power has changed. Today, my iPhone has more capability than my computer 3 or 4 years ago. So that's only going to continue to change. Data storage has gotten large, right? The big buzzword is big data. Okay? How does big data exist? Big data exists because we're merging many, many different data sets from many, many different sensors, and we're then trying to interpret what that data is. Okay? Connectivity has improved. Okay? You look at worldwide connectivity, it's not unusual to be able to pick up your cell phone, pick up your email, look at the internet, look at different data. Right? Visualization. So if you look at applications today that are coming out that either work with smartphones or work with various manufacturers' sensors, those applications are being very specific towards industry and being very focused then for a certain industry segment or a very industry task. So Sanjay, I'm not a technology guy, obviously, since I can't use this, but yeah, but how about I just use this so I don't overcomplicate it? So I took away the technology part. That's the problem, is once you become 50, then technology becomes a difficult task. But the change we've seen in the geospatial side, and I would say the change we've seen from a surveying perspective, is if you look at the left-hand side of this slide, is we went from something being very, very mechanical to the right-hand side to something being very, very digital. Okay? The other part we have seen is we went from really computationally writing things down or using a slide rule to using actual calculator to actually having an integrated computer on the various sensors. Now on the very far right-hand side, we're starting to look at unmanned vehicles. Right? You start to hear things on drones. You start to hear things on autonomous vehicles. All of that is changing the way we as geospatial professionals work. That's essential. On the left-hand side, those of us who grew up in this industry, you needed to be a surveyor. You needed to be a cartographer to actually collect that data and be very involved in that data. You also need to be a surveyor or an engineer or a cartographer to actually do the processing of that data and create that data into a useful form. Today, technology has changed that. Okay? On the right-hand side, if I'm driving a vehicle and that vehicle has some integrated technology on it and it's collecting billions and billions of points in an hour, I don't need to be a surveyor. I don't need to be a cartographer. To reduce that data or process that data and put it into a useful form, and many times I do not need to be a surveyor, I do not have to be an engineer. However, we as geospatial professionals are the ones who must then ensure the quality of that data. We need to become the quality managers of this data because it's coming from many, many different sources. Sensor integration is happening across our industry. If you look on the upper left-hand side, you're seeing how the kind of optical total stations have evolved, right? And really, this piece it's already dated, this slide, right? You're starting to see imaging happen. You're starting to see virtual reality happen. The GNSS side used to just be called GPS. Before that, it was called transit. Okay? You're now seeing many different satellite-based systems. You're seeing other sensors be brought into the equation. You're starting to see potentially your own vehicle become a data collection source. You look at the Google autonomous car, very precision instrumentation on that vehicle to actually locate or to drive that vehicle. That data is all of ours for us to be able to use as geospatial professionals. However, we need to know where that comes from. Computational power, again, has changed significantly. We have more and more computational power as time goes on. The other is just pure productivity. Okay? On the left-hand side, if you look at some of the earliest surveys, we talked about doing a point a day or points a day. Just in the last decade, through many of the different data collection techniques that have evolved, we're seeing thousands of % increase. Now we're talking thousands of points collected in minutes, not 1 point in a day. We're also changing the concept of who cares about a point? Who cares about a cloud? What we care about is an object. What we care about is a shape. So we as professionals have changed from being very point-based and very productivity-based based on the point to moving to a shape or to an object. So again, a significant change. You're seeing, from an accuracy perspective, increase significantly, and you're also seeing a price decrease. 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, for sure 20 years ago, would have I ever thought a smartphone will produce a centimeter accuracy? It doesn't today, but will it? Absolutely. We're starting to see as an industry, that consumer devices are moving into the professional world. In the past, the devices from the professional world moved to the consumer world. But this is a significant change for us as a profession. The consumer world is actually bringing capability into us. So who remembers Tang? Very awful drink that came from the space program. Okay, that was developed by the space program, but then moved out to the consumer world. We're now seeing stuff that is driven from the consumer world being brought into us as geospatial engineers. And as we move, we're moving from pure data collection and dealing with the sensor to being more and more involved with modeling and analytics. And to be involved with modeling and analytics, us as geospatial professionals need to become more and more and more familiar with the industries we serve. Because if you're going to do modeling and if you're going to do analytics, you must know then what is a construction model, right? You need to know about agricultural yield. You need to know the industry you're serving because you're no longer just involved in data collection. The market's size increases significantly as we move in that direction. We can sit and still be involved in data collection. For those of you who are surveyors who want to dress up like George Washington, carry a chain, that's fun to do in Halloween, but there's not a lot of jobs in that. So the real market grows as we get more involved in modeling and analytics. Visualization has exploded. The things we can visualize and the size and the complexity of the models that we can look at on a mobile phone today or a smartphone has changed significantly. Today in geospatial, this is just a short summary of some of the markets that we're in. If we go back to the 10 Deutschmark, we started up in the upper right in the cadastral market. That's where we lived. The cadastral market was where we started. Okay? But today, we've expanded to all these different industries. Take one as transportation and logistics, a truck, a lorry today. Geospatial information is used to navigate that truck, say, from Brussels to Frankfurt. It gives that truck information to determine where's the best place to get petrol. It determines what's in the back of that truck, and should they bring those iPhones to location X or location Y. A warehouse is no longer fixed in a geospatial world. A warehouse is dynamic. Who of us as geospatial professionals ever thought we'd be in the trucking industry? Very few. But it's a key part of that industry today. The connected government. From a government perspective, you're starting to see the government start to connect much of this geospatial data. One of the debates we had yesterday is actual data awareness. Those of you who are representing governments, I ask you to be more data aware. Me as a manufacturer have sold many pieces of equipment 2 or 3 times to you guys because you're not aware of sharing that data. So data awareness is very important. If you buy equipment for the agricultural group, you could probably use it for the forestry group. Look at using that. That data awareness is essential. If you look at the construction industry has really kind of exploded in using geospatial information. There's a word, if you don't know it, you must learn it to be in this industry going forward. It's called BIM. It's called Building Information Modeling. It's essential you know it. Think of it as a GIS for the interior of a building. It's nothing special. We as contractors gave it a special name just to look cool. But the bottom line is a GIS inside of the building. It's to know where all of your assets are and to be able to then look at those assets and determine during the construction process if there's any type of conflict, but for you from a maintenance perspective to be able to maintain it. This is an exploding field, and it's a field that we as geospatial professionals need to be part of. Things have changed. As an industry, just as a rough idea, we have went from being very focused on data collection in the field to office reduction in the office or processing. We're now seeing more and more work done in the field at the point of data collection. Okay? More and more work is done at the point of data collection. That improves quality, it reduces rework, it makes us more productive. Significant change. Sanjay brought up the prosumer. We're starting to see more and more non-professionals involved in data collection. That's fine. We want that. Okay? Just take a look from a land administration perspective. There's over 1 billion parcels of land that still need to be surveyed. There's not 1 billion surveyors in the world. So we need to expand from a professional perspective to do that data collection. So there are significant trends, technology trends, professional trends. In the past, the industries were quite segmented or discrete, meaning taking the construction process, there were designers, there were constructors, there were people who maintained data. Each of them used geospatial data in one form or another. The industries have now found, just like I said from a government perspective, is data use, data knowledge across that industry is essential. If I do some flying for a particular design, I can also use that for other aspects in the entire design construction process. Very, very important. Okay? So data use, data reuse, data knowledge, essential. You're finding industries integrate more and utilize geospatial across their entire continuum. So they're moving from this discrete use of data to an integrated use of data. No different than how we did from a technology perspective. We started with positioning or location using, say, GPS or optical total stations or photogrammetry. Now all of us as companies have sensors that combine all of that junk together and create a location. As an industry, they're doing the same thing. They're integrating their work process. Why are they integrating their work process? It improves productivity by at least 30% and reduces rework or improves quality by as much as 50% by integrating that work process. Technology is one part of that, but the use and reuse and knowledge of geospatial data is an essential part as well. We as geospatial professionals must change. Okay? We can't dress up like George Washington anymore. Okay? For those of you who know George Washington, first American president, but he was also a surveyor. So we have this famous monument in the U.S. called Mount Rushmore. It has 4 presidents on it, 3 were surveyors. So surveying had a very important and rich part of the U.S. history. Gauss, one of the greatest surveyors of all time. So surveying is important, but it has changed. It has moved from being primarily a data collection portion, or geospatial in general, from data collection, to now we're becoming more and more involved in the quality control. Now, many of you in this room are saying, I did the quality control as well. I agree, but you did it with your own data. Usually data you collected. Today, we're going to get data that we didn't collect, or we're going to get data that we got from technology we're unaware of, and we need to interpret what that accuracy and what that integrity is, or from people who are not surveyors. So I'm not saying you didn't do data quality before. Your job has become more complicated because you're going to get many different disparate data types from many different sources, and you need to evaluate it. That's the key for us as geospatial professionals going forward. Great opportunity for us. We need to embrace it. You know, Sanjay showed this huge market. Okay? The problem is, many of us in this room aren't taking advantage of it. For those of you who come from government agencies, I would contend many cases we're not utilizing that data in the most proper way. Those of you who come from professional organizations where you provide professional services, nowhere are you taking advantage of many of the opportunities. We must change as an industry. If we don't change, we'll become extinct. And others will pick it up. Thank you very much.